Our speaker needs no introduction, the Reverend Dr. Winston Johnson.
Good morning. Good morning. Today's scripture is, trust in the Lord with all thine heart, and lean not unto your own understanding. In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall do what? Direct your path. Proverbs 3:5-6. Now, the lesson today is the power of achievement. Now, when we put our trust in God, God will give us the what? Desires of our heart. When we put our trust in God, we have the power of achievement, because with God, all things are possible. Our senior minister, the Reverend Dr. Derek Wells, is an example of that. He's a graduate of the Johnny Coleman Theological Seminary. He has a Bachelor of Arts in Communication, a Master's of Art in Communication and Training. He just received a doctorate in education. He has been awarded the Dissertation of Distinction Honor and the Student of Excellence Honor. And he is the minister of the greatest church in the universe, Christ Universal Temple. Woo! He is a walking, talking, breathing example of the power of achievement. Why? Because he put his trust in God. Now, we need to make it clear to our children and students that if they want to have the power of achievement, they have to take the journey and follow the rules of the road. Now, I want you to understand, I'm going to be talking to kids who may not even be here. Anything that you hear as a parent of the young people, you need to record it and take it home, or some of the young people who have not experienced the success that you saw today. Because we see a whole lot of stuff on television that needs to be healed. So I am going to keep it real. Rule number one on this journey: start with God. Why? Because you're created in the image and after the likeness of God, which means you're created in the image and the likeness of absolute good. And if you're created in the image and after the likeness of absolute good, that means you too good for jail, too good for gangs, and too good for drive-by shootings. I'm keeping it real. I didn't come up here to talk no smack. Rule 2, believe in yourself. If you don't believe in yourself, you can't expect nobody to believe in you for you but you. The reason you should believe in yourself is because God has given you everything that you need in order to succeed. He's given you a brain with 100 billion brain cells so you can learn whatever it is that you need to learn. He's given you eyes with 100 million light cells so you can see whatever it is that you need and go after it. Then God has given you a body with 200 bones and over 600 muscles so you can stand tall and do it all. You got everything that you need in order to succeed, but guess what? You got to use what you got. A mind is a terrible thing to waste. You either use it or you what? Lose it. Rule 3, keep your eye on the prize. Keep your eye on the prize. That means keep your eye on the road to achievement, which means you got to know where you're going. Because if you don't know where you're going, you'll follow anybody, anywhere. The problem is the person you following may be lost. Let the church say. Amen. And when the lost follow the lost, everybody falls in a ditch. So if you're going to play this game or follow the leader, make sure the leader is on the same road that you on, the road to achievement and success. Rule 4, you got to prepare. It's not enough to know where you're going, but you got to prepare to get there. That means stay in school. Why? Because the more you learn, the more you earn. When you drop out of school, you drop out of life right into the unemployment line. And guess what? If you can't work, you'll be tempted to steal or sell drugs. And that's why 75% of jail inmates are high school dropouts. Y'all heard me say it before when I was a principal? I used to take my boys to the county jail so they could see the reality of dropping out of school. They saw grown men sleeping on the floor, 2 and 3 to a cell. And guess what? The majority of the drug abusers there were HIV positive. That means if you go to jail now, baby, you go at your own risk. That's why Malcolm X told us education is the passport to freedom. The future belongs only to those who prepare for it when. Today, we want students to be prepared to go to Chicago State, not State Penn, Morehouse, not the big house, Yale, not the jail. And I want you to listen to this. That's why we should do everything that we can to keep the doors of Chicago State University open. I'm keeping it real. So that the students can get the education that they need to achieve and succeed. And I want you to look at me because I am a graduate, y'all, of CTC, Chicago Teachers College, the forerunner of Chicago State University. CTC prepared me to be the teacher and the principal God created me to be. I met Joyce, my wife, at CTC. What a blessing. We graduated the same day and the same time. And guess what? The tuition there was $20 a semester for a full loan. Now, you know how long that was ago. And I got news for you. There were times that my mama didn't have it. I'm keeping it real. She had to pay late. And I stand here today as an example that it's better to be late than never. Y'all getting this? That's why men, the children, should see us registering for Men's Day, Boys to Men's Day. They need to see men willing to be the change they want to see in the world, because the proceeds from the breakfast will be used to provide scholarships to keep our youth in school, off the streets, in school, and not in jail. It works if you work. Rule 5, study to show yourself approved unto God and your teachers. God first. I'm keeping it real. And your teachers. Which means, young people, you got to give up some of that hip-hop for homework. Give up some of that Jay-Z for geometry. Because it's hard to do what you want to do, need to do, always rapping and clapping with old Jay-Z. Sometimes you got to give up getting down so you can wear a cap and gown and say to the world, how do you like me now? If you want to make it in this world, you got to work while others play, study while others sleep, and book while others boogie. That means if you want to have a hookup, you got to pick a book up. You have to use your time to develop your mind so that you will not be left behind. Because once you have knowledge, I got news for you. You got something that nobody can take away from you. Rule 6. Choose your friends carefully. If you're hanging out with folks that don't want to do anything, be anything, go anywhere, cut them loose. You know why? Because after a while, you won't want to do anything, be anything, go anywhere. Birds of a feather will flock together, and you will never fly as high as an eagle as long as you hang out with turkeys. That's the church saying? I'm keeping it real. Turkeys don't even fly well, not even high. Stay away from them. And I got news for you. If you want to succeed and achieve, stay away from drugs. I'm keeping it real. Because whenever you choose drugs, you choose the possibility of death, because drugs and death are married and they will never get a divorce. Learn from the mistakes of others. You heard me say it before. Lynn Bias, first draft pick of the Boston Celtics, had a choice between life and dope. Lynn Bias chose dope. Lynn Bias is dead. Whitney Houston, God rest her soul, blessed by God with the greatest voice in the universe, had a choice between life and dope. Whitney Houston chose dope. Whitney Houston is dead. I'm going to personalize it now. Robert Johnson, Bobby Johnson, that we affectionately call Bobby Johnson, my baby brother, had a choice between life and dope. My baby brother chose dope. My baby brother is dead. That means, young people, we want you to become doctors, not dope fiends, judges, not junkies, PhDs, not ODs. Whenever you choose drugs, you choose the possibility of death, because drugs and death are married and they will never get a divorce. I said that, and I've shared this before, on one occasion at a high school in the city of Chicago, big high school. And this young man jumped up in the audience, raised his hand. Dr. Johnson? I said, yeah. What's all this talk about drugs? We ain't responsible for the flow of drugs across the borders of our country and to our community. The man is responsible for that. Now, what you got to say about that, doctor? And then he sat down. And I just want you to understand something about that experience. I really, at that point, didn't know what to say. And I just quietly said, God, please help me with this. Because the students are looking at him, they're looking at me, and I said, oh, Lord. And then I got still. And then the answer came. I said, you know what, young man? You're right. You're not responsible for the flow of drugs across the borders of this country into your community. But guess what? you are responsible for the flow of drugs across the borders of your nostrils and the borders of your veins. You are the Border Patrol. When you choose drugs, you are no longer a victim, you have become a volunteer. The drug industry in this country is a multi-billion-dollar industry based upon the law of supply and demand, and if there is no demand, there will be no what? Supply. And then I looked at the young brother. I said, any more questions? And you know what he said? No, that's what I was trying to say in the first place. Woo! Rule 7. Stay in school and out of the maternity ward. I'm keeping it real. This is daddy talk. Pregnancy is the leading cause for teen dropouts of high school. The message is babies and books are like gasoline and water. They just don't mix. Because it's hard to do what you want to do and be what you need to be with a book in one hand and a baby on your knee. And I got news for you, boys. You just as responsible as the girls. Because one half of that baby comes from you. And that means if you neglect that baby, you have neglected one half of yourself. So if you can't feed them, don't breed them. Rule 8. Respect your parents. Do what they tell you to do. In spite of what you know or think you know, they've been there, done that. And I got news for you. When I was 18, I thought my grandmama didn't know nothing. I'm keeping it real. And when I turned 22, I was amazed at how much she had learned in 4 years. Woo! Rule 9, watch your mouth. Watch your mouth. Why? Because the power of life and death are in the tongue. And it ain't nothing wrong with rapping. Just rap about life, not death. Plan your future, not your funeral. Because Jesus said, I am come that they might have life and have it how? More abundantly. So rap about life, not death. Plan your future, not your funeral, because you reap what you rap. Rule 10, stay alive. Because your life matters. That means you got to learn how to walk away from mess. Serious. Forget about having the last word. It's better to have the last breath than it is to have the last word. Because you can't succeed if you don't survive. You can't survive if you're not alive. And you cannot survive or succeed in a cemetery. I was a speaker, and I've shared this before, at a graduation ceremony at Collins High School a few years back. A young man in the audience, he was sitting on the front row. And I used him as an example as the importance of academic excellence. His name was Kenneth Davis. He had a full academic scholarship to Rutgers University, majoring in civil engineering. The young man was closing the achievement gap. He went out the night of his graduation, and he was killed. I went to the graduation ceremony one week, and the next week I went to his funeral. We can't succeed if we don't survive, and we can't survive if we're not alive, and we cannot succeed in the cemetery. That's why one of the things that we all have to do in our community, do everything that you can to stop the violence wherever you are. Because it takes a whole village to raise a community of children. You listening to me? Rule 11, dress for success. Always look your best. My grandmama taught me that as a little boy. I used to iron my pants on the ironing board with that Argo starch. Man, the creases in my pants were so sharp you could cut your fingers. And I today have been for a long time. I go in schools, and I'm still seeing it. You know how much time and energy that takes? If they spend as much time pulling up their grades as they do pulling up their pants, they all be on down the road. That means when you get up in the morning, you should be looking for your good, and you should never let your good catch you looking bad. So when opportunity knocks, it will be your appearance that gets you in the door, your intelligence that will keep you there. Always look as good as the good you're trying to get. Don't ever let your good catch you looking bad. Rule 12. Never be satisfied. Always try to be better. Always try to improve your grades. That means if you get good grades, get better grades. And I got news for you. Don't worry about nobody calling you a nerd. Nerds running. They run banks. They run businesses. They run Wall Street. They run the world. They run the United States of America because President Barack Obama is a nerd. He didn't get that by accident. Bill Gates, one of the richest men in the country, is a nerd. Oprah Winfrey, a billionairess, is a nerd. Dr. King enrolled in Morehouse College at age 15. He was a nerd. And he said it, if you can't be a highway, be a trail. If it can't be the sun, be a star, because it's not by size that you win or you fail. Be the best of whatever you are. And we have been blessed with the best, the Reverend Dr. Derek Wells. Woo! Yes, indeed. Now, the last rule says never, ever give up. Never give yourself an excuse to quit, because the better the excuse, the worse it is. And I've heard a lot of the excuses. I can't make it because I came from the lowland. I can't make it because our daddy left us. I can't make it because I failed in school. I can't make it because I got low test scores. The answer to that is, so what? Now what? What you gonna do about it? Because you looking at a brother in your face that came from the hood. Born 718 East 47th Street. 640 South St. Lawrence, and you at that time couldn't come more from the hood than that. If you had come into my neighborhood back in the day on a Saturday, your chances of being robbed were 150%. Guaranteed. And you heard this story before. Daddy leaving you? Please. My daddy left me, my two brothers, my mama, the dog, the cat, and the bird. Said, I'm out of here. And I'm not going to deny the fact that that did not affect me. Years I was angry at my father. And here's the kicker. When he made his transition, we did not even know about it. That's how distant we were. But thank God for a lady by the name of the Reverend Dr. Johnny Cole. Because she said in the pulpit one day, if you know better, you do better. You do the best that you can with who you and what you have. And I took that as a message, and I start checking my father's background. And here's what I found. His father and his father's father taught him how to do what he did. Because they had a distant relationship. And he took that same relationship and he brought it on to us. And that's why I made a decision that I would never, ever leave my children. And right there today in the church is the CEO of Blue Point Medical Associates, my daughter, Latanya Johnson Weaver. Failing when I was in high school. When I was in elementary school, Forrestville Elementary School, I didn't fail once, I failed twice. I'm keeping it real. 2 times. First time was by mistake. Didn't mean to do it. And I think the second time was on purpose, because failure can become a habit. I had gotten accustomed to all of the folks I was in school with, and I didn't want to go. And my test scores, when I graduated from Forrestville Elementary School, guess what? I had a 6.0 reading score. Listen to me. And they didn't have minimum basic competencies back then. They passed you on age. And I was almost as old as a teacher. Woo! And here's the kicker. I had the nerve to want to go to one of the finest high schools in the city of Chicago, Tilden Technical High School, all-boys school. And they told me they weren't going to let me in, and I went over and talked to the counselor. I said, I want to come to Tilden. They said, I can't come. She said, they told you right. Your reading score is too low. And then I did what my grandmama taught me to do. Ask, and if you don't get what you ask for, keep asking. Seek, and if you don't get what you're looking for, keep looking, and then knock. And if you don't get what you're knocking for, knock like the police. And that's what I did. And the lady told me, okay, we'll let you in here on probation. But if your reading score does not go up after the spring testing, you out of here. You understand? Yes, ma'am. I never worked as hard as I worked in my life. I would sit at the dining room table on 47th Street, and I would always be reading a book. I took the spring test, and guess what? My reading score went from 6.0 to 8.6. I graduated from Tilden, this boy from the hood, whose daddy left him when he was age 6, number 7 in the class, a member of the National Honor Society. Went on to get a bachelor's degree. Not one, 2 master's degrees and a PhD. Became an associate professor of educational leadership. And listen to this. When I became a principal of Rosa Parks Middle School, you know who came to dedicate it? Rosa Parks, the mother of the civil rights movement. And you know who introduced her? This boy from the hood whose daddy left him at age 6. I did. And here's the kicker. I told you they let me in Tilden on probation because my reading score was too low. This past October 2015, they put me in the Tilden Technical High School Hall of Fame. Galen was there. Hall of Fame. It works if you work. And when I retired from School District 147, the street across from the school was named after me. Now, what does this mean? Never give up. Because the race in life is not to the swift or to the smart or to the strong, but to those who endure to the end. And it doesn't matter how many times you fall down, just as long as you keep getting up. Maya Angelou said it best. You may write me down in history with your bitter, twisted lies. You may trod me in the very dirt, but still like dust I rise, bringing the gifts my ancestors gave. I'm the dream and the hope of the slave. I rise no matter how hard it gets. I rise no matter how heavy the load. I rise, I rise, I rise. And still, like dust, I rise.